And welcome back. Let's try this again with sound, so I'm not actually just talking to a blank portrait with moving lips. Welcome back to On the King's Dime. It is Tuesday, the 14th of July. Free agency is almost upon us. We did a whole little spiel on the possible impending second lockdown that's coming. And we will talk Kings roster, free agency, lots of different things to discuss tonight. We're going to look at Glover, the signing of Glover and Dejan Vasiljevic. You checked that order? You're coming through all right?
Yeah, I just was just checking it now.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had a bit of issue before.
Yeah, that's all right. A bit rusty, after lockdown.
Yes, it's getting back to normality.
But a possible second lockdown may be coming. Let's just start with that. Mainly around.
Let's.
Yeah, what might happen? Like, what do you think? Eastern states, we've got Perth and Adelaide. Also, travel out to there might be a little bit difficult if we're all locked down once again. But we've got a few months really before we can knock this on the head again and possibly go back to full scale Australian-wide travel to get our sporting events back up and running.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be until there's a viable vaccination. I don't think we're ever going to see sport as we once knew it. As I was kind of alluding to before, I think the NRL have been the benchmark of how to go about life and sport in a lockdown situation. The flexibility of teams to move interstate. When you haven't got all your teams based in one state as a league like the AFL does, you've got a little bit more flexibility to move. And, the NBL is going to be that kind of fluid, flexible beast where potentially they may have to take, a Perth bubble or a Queensland bubble. And all the teams have to come, to that state and play in a couple of venues in that state. You're probably looking at Queensland being a viable option because there's two stadiums in the state where there will be, although Cairns Stadium's being redeveloped and they're actually they're modifying a Bunnings shed.
Yeah, good on them, man. If that's what they got to do, that's what they got to do. Good to see the Queensland government at least chipping in, trying to keep them viable. Saw a few Perth fans on Facebook getting a bit upset. You're just like, mate, why? Well,
it's not that, man. Townsville's got a complete viable stadium as well.
Are they still vying for a franchise license though, Townsville?
I don't think so at this point. I think that was hit on the head after the Tasmanian success. So I think that that has not come back to fruition as yet. I think that this is just going to be a very different world for a very long time, and hopefully we see more of the plan and in what the drive of the NBL is going to be and how they're going to be profitable with no crowds or very few crowds or very little crowds or TV deals. What are we talking about? And one of the big things that we were discussing, I was discussing to you, but not to anyone else, was
go reiterate that for me.
The talent pool that is potentially coming back to Australia for this year's NBL because no leagues around the world are viable. And how that's going to affect really development of basketball in this country over the next couple of years. We're not going to see the likes of, your Deng Dengs, Dengakuths, guys that may have been in the AIS, Banjo Talbots. We're not going to see young talent. It's going to get bumped for, really good talent coming back from the States. Jock Landau potentially coming back, Dean Vasiljevic, Benke Joyce, a lot of guys. The Duke captain's coming back. Jack
White. We're in talks with him.
Jack White. Yeah. So it's an interesting beast that's going to be moving forward. I don't think we're going to see a lot of imports. Although I would like to see us, really re-sign Didi Lazada. If we could pick up Jake.
He's still contracted, but the NBA need to release him, I think. Don't quote me on that. So he's still contracted for this year as a next star, but it's all to do with this NBA out, I think.
Yeah, I think they have to pretty much give the okay for him to play another season because I think New Orleans Pelicans own his rights as a second-round draft for 2 years. I believe that's the case.
Which works out really nicely for us. I mean, if they want to stash him again, I guess all I'll have to do is get clearance for him to come back out to Australia, because I actually think he's over in the US at the moment. I think.
Yeah, I look, to be honest with you, I can see the NBA bubble working now to finish a season. I don't know how they're going to start a new season. I just don't. I don't think it's going to happen. There's going to be no G League because there's just not enough money. It's not going to happen. Zero chance of a new full NBA season starting. It's, the virus pandemic's only just picking up in the States now. Unless they just kicked everyone out of Vegas and just played all the games in Vegas with, no one else in Vegas but NBA players and their families, really. No one's allowed in or out kind of thing. So I think we're going to see a lot of talent, a lot of good talent, and potentially picking up low-level NBA players to come and play, because we might get a couple of really good G League players. I know there is a power forward that is in talks with the NBL as part of the Next Stars program, because there really isn't going to be a G League season next year. He's a 5-star. The name escapes me. It looks good though. I was watching videos of him. I'll come back to you on that one.
Yeah, come back to us on that one. I have a feeling I'll know the one you're talking about too, but I can't remember the name.
9:30 at 9 brain fart.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think there's going to be a lot of talent. Maybe we might have to fast track a team or two, get it back to the comp, because we're going to have such a large talent pool of players that are going to want to be playing in our league potentially for years to come.
So it'll be very interesting sort of to see where the league, I was saying in the previous iteration of this episode, that it would be very interesting to see the strategies that these teams employ, whether they go all out really early in free agency, all out on their imports, or whether they hold their powder dry a little bit and sort of think, at the end of this year, there may be some opportunities to bring some guys from the NBA or the G League or the US over. So we don't want to, go early on the imports and then, be stuck later without being able to bring in another import, et cetera, et cetera. But then again, you're risking another gamble there. Will those guys even be able to get back in the country, or get into the country rather? I mean, we're looking at exemptions, stuff like that. It's going to be a very, very interesting start to the season, regardless of where the USA is at.
Well, funnily enough, they're required to quarantine when they come here, but they're not required to quarantine when they go back to the US, because Australia is considered a safe country, same as the UK. We're not required to quarantine. Not really. If you're from Victoria, it doesn't. But anyway, let's talk current Sydney roster, potential signings. Obviously, big news is that we're somehow in the running for Chris Golding, which I think would be just a humongous coup.
Yeah.
For NBL.
Don't really like the guy, but I would take him. I'd be like, yes, sure.
I'll take him. Just another ball handler to the piece. Looking for that starting center now that Bogut's pretty much guaranteed to retire. Bullock-Stradamus.
Yeah.
Getting out.
Let's not say guaranteed. Let's say Bullock-Stradamus.
There is no 2021 Tokyo Olympics. That's
Bogut
is forced to retire because there's no, that's the viable last hurrah for him, and that's probably not going to go ahead. So I would say that we're going to be stuck in a NBL bubble for a couple of years, and there's really he's kind of proven himself. He's won MVP, didn't get to win the title, but that's a controversy in itself, really. So you could kind of say he's achieved everything he probably could in basketball, except that World Cup, and we're not going to see that, or the Olympics, which we're not going to see either. So I would say that that's the end. But everyone should go check out Mangok Matiang. Played for the Charlotte Hornets in a couple of games, played for the Hornets G League franchise. Dude's a beast, like a big, powerful center.
Yeah.
Really under the basket specialist, but, really good defensive center. And kind of an old school FIBA ball player. Didn't really suit the NBA game, but suits the FIBA style game quite well. So that'll be a good signing if we manage to pick him as well. But, I don't mind this team for something new. I think that, maybe Shawnee Big Balls Bruce can run the point in absence of Casper Ware. I don't think we need an import point guard. I think we can potentially pick up a local guard and have Sean Bruce run it if you've got the guys like second backup handlers like Golding who can potentially play that second ball handling role and create a lot of shots off the dribble. But Xavier Cook's re-signing is obviously a big thing. Angus Glover is a good signing too, good solid signing.
Yep. We'll touch on those two after we go through the actual roster. So the current squad from last year. Actually, no, let's cast our mind back a little bit to when we first started this podcast, the roster that we had back then, to the transition of what the roster that we have at the moment. If you look back at the 18-19 roster, Bogut just coming in, it was an unknown. We're looking at a team where, this is interesting. We had Jerome Randall playing point. David Ware as the import turned out to be a bit of a bust. Brian Bowen was pretty decent as a next star. I think if you looked at the comparison between Didi and Bowen, do you think Didi might have been a little bit better than Bowen as a next star for us last year?
I think Andrew Gaze is just a woeful coach.
Yeah.
So we didn't really get to see what Brian Bowen was capable of. He put a couple of good performances together for the Pacers G League affiliate, scoring some good points.
Did he actually make NBA appearances?
No, he didn't. No. He never signed a 10-day contract. It was just a G League contract, so two-way, but never played.
Nah. So if you go back to that roster, obviously it sets the table to look at this roster we picked up last year, and we should mention, probably one of the best import signings or like impact import signings we've seen in a long time in jae'sean Tate. Unfortunately, has COVID, so he's not playing in the TBT tournament. Seems like symptomatically, from what the reports are, he seems to be fine. So we're hoping that there's a possibility that if the unrest sort of continues in the USA and the NBA, that we might see him come back down. Because I believe he's still contracted. Let me just double check that. Shout out to Aussie Hoopla too. If you read about basketball, we're not affiliated with them in any way, but Aussie Hoopla do a great free agent tracker. So we just want to shout out them. Just sort of say if you want to know a lot about hoops and free agents and stuff like that, their tracker's great. We've been using that. Shout out to them. JT, I can't remember if he signed a 2-year or 1 year now. I feel like it was a 1 year.
1 year deal, yes, yeah. It was a 1 year deal. But they are looking to, their own talks. But
man, I think he's destined for the NBA, really, though.
He has to be. He has to be destined for the NBA. He was such an impactful player in the NBL, probably the most impactful player the NBL's seen in a couple of years for what he did at his position and just the way he played. He's meant for NBA. No one's going to be able to beat him one-on-one. It's just impossible for anyone to kind of smother him at the rim. And when you don't have a center driving the agenda in NBA, where it's very much that one-on-one basketball, man, he's a walking bucket around the rim and can really open up a lot of space if you've got a lot of shooters in the team.
So if we see him come back, that's great. But you won't be sort of disappointed if you say, look, farewell to the NBA. Like, I think we'll all give him our best if he doesn't come back, if he stays in the NBA.
We'll be very disappointed if he comes back and goes to another team.
Yeah, man.
We gave him Tim Tams.
Don't do that, man. I didn't even think about that. Now you made me real paranoid about that happening. But yeah, no, it's a shame that he's got COVID. He's over in the US now, so we'll hope that he's back. But I've got up here on the stream our main squad basically ranked in how many minutes they played, but minutes per game. So Casper Ware 30 minutes per game, JT 27, Newley 26, Bogut 21 per game. Bruce 19, which is interesting. He was the fifth highest minutes off the bench, which is interesting. Sixth man of the year candidate. I thought he was probably the sixth man of the year. He was kind of robbed for that. Daniel Kickett 16 minutes, Didi 16 minutes, and then Xavier was playing 29 minutes a game in the end. And I think probably a little bit of a coup if we can keep playing him as a small ball center. He's definitely one of our more versatile players, can handle the ball. He wasn't the greatest scorer sort of the back end of the season, but he definitely sort of stepped up in those big moments in the finals against Melbourne and then against Perth. Defensively, I think he's a solid young guy who can progress his game. And in our team, it's a fit. He's not just a guy who's going to progress. He's a guy who can fit our team and progress. Then onto the role players. Deshaun Taylor, I think he's gone back to the US as well. Craig, he was playing 14 minutes a game. Craig Moller, 16 minutes a game. He was obviously injured last year of that foot problem, but he's re-signed. Kevin Lish was just a shame, 19 minutes a game, but he had that huge injury issue all season. Basically, has retired, I think, because of that ankle
foot falling off.
His foot has fallen off. Oh man, it sucks. I was hoping to get one more season out of him. I think he's an experienced guy who can fit the team, never complains, always, any job to be done, he'll do it. Lucas, then you go to Lucas Walker 5 minutes a game, and then Hunter and Kiwani 2 minutes a game, pretty much also rans. Hunter obviously is back, contracted I think until 2022 or for 2 years plus a team option. So he's still in the league developing. Didn't get much game time last season, but he's back. But yeah, so I'll just go to the next slide, which is what's happened. Basically, Casper Ware's opted out. What do you think about that?
I think that was a money thing. I think he was probably thinking of European greener pastures, but I don't think that's going to happen for some reason.
Driven out, maybe?
I don't think driven out. I think it was very much around the new bargaining agreement and the severe decrease in salary expectations based on last year. I think they all were in the line for a salary bump this season based on last year's performance, both in game sale tickets and TV. So when that didn't come to fruition, obviously you also have to look at when he opted out of his contract, the Australian dollar was worth 20% less than it is now as well. So you've got to factor in that he's probably lost 40% and then losing another 20%. Is it financially viable to want to come back and do it? Whereas, potentially he could earn a bit more in Europe, but I don't think Europe's going ahead in any, maybe a local league, maybe Russia will play, but hey man, who wants to play in Russia right now? You kind of want to be in the safest environments in the world to do this and not be sick and be in a good country with a good healthcare system. Obviously for, guys like Casper and all that would be America as well for them because they would have insurance, but Australia too and kind of Western nations. So I don't see him going to Europe. I probably see him, coming back to the NBL in what capacity and with what team. I'm not sure. I do know Sydney do want to keep him on the roster, but maybe limit his 3-point attempts to 3 or 4 a game.
By 75-80%.
Yeah, that was just terrible. I could not believe just Brick City. Brick City,
it's so harsh,
Brick City,
man.
Here we come.
Because he shoots himself into form, and it was so hard watching him last year. Like, it's so hard to go, man, I don't know if I want to watch that again. But at the same time, I still like the guy, and I'm like, no, he had a pretty good season. It wasn't he knitted the team together. But again, it's the Randall equation where you just go, all right, if you don't do what you want to do, and you basically do these 3 niche things that aren't your strength, you're a great asset to this team. And what player kind of wants to play in that environment, really, at the end of the day?
But if you playing with Bogut's a very different beast because Bogut did not want to play key to key. He wanted to play key to 3-point line to the arc. And, a guy like Madiang plays key to key. So it gives Casper Ware a lot more space to come off a down screen, whereas Bogut would just not set a down screen. He would not come up high enough. He was not ready to do that. And Kickett is not fit enough. So what do you do in that situation where you've got 2 old guys playing center, which don't suit the style of how Casper plays the game? He's got to kind of fit to them when really we should be fitting to him if we want the most out of him. And that's playing that down screen, how Melbourne trounced us, 4 games last year, the year before last. That's Casper at his best, not hoiking up, 22-second shot clock shots, which is what we kind of got all season from him.
Yeah, so I just still wonder kind of how much maybe he got in his own head a little bit and, opting out could have been, speculating opting out could have been a little bit like, you know what, I didn't fulfill what I wanted last year, maybe this year. I don't know, maybe, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. I would like to see us go in a bit of a different direction anyway, because of the way we're kind of building this, roster that's yay big with a lot of ball handlers. If some of the other signings sort of pan out towards the end of the season. JT is obviously in the USA. Brad Newell in his second year, so he stays on. Bogut opting out. Did we talk about that in that last episode?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I think that it's the right decision if your heart and your soul's not in it, and I don't think his is. He's too busy on Twitter playing Twitter wars.
Yeah.
Although he's been pretty quiet of late, I think probably got him a bit spooked. Really nothing to talk about, but
yeah, and then I think he sold his house too, which was another big interesting. I'm not usually big on the old, tabloid news. I'm more like, I'll just wait to see what happens. But I get the feeling that he's a bit disgruntled with what's happening in the actual league itself and how it's run. So I feel like that's feeding in a little bit, maybe. I mean, I'm just speculating, but
he's coming from a point of power in the NBA where the National Basketball Players Association has so much power in that league. Like, they have part ownership of the league. That's how their salaries are paid. It's based on income in the league. They get a revenue share. We can't do that in a little market where we have 25 million people, all of which there's one team per city, and we're playing against cricket, your A-League, other, summer sports. And also, you're competing against your winter sports as well, because those are always in the hearts and minds. We're not really that, great a sporting nation when it comes to, multiple codes. You kind of follow your team, and you might have a second team or watch a bit of cricket or things like that. But it's a small market. It needs to be managed appropriately in order to function as a small market basketball. The game is growing. And the fact of the matter is that, we were able to bring talent here like jae'sean Tate, like Bryce Cotton, like Xavier Cooks, to create a better product. And last season was an amazing product. It was really good.
Yeah.
Like, the first time, you got a couple of trash games in there, but it was a really good product. Every team was good. The only probably one was Illawarra Hawks were more of a kind of a novelty, but hey, it worked. Great, created a lot of hype for the game. A lot of hey, young NBA draft hopefuls, come down and play for us. You're going to get tons of playing time. You're going to potentially just go at your own pace. You pretty much write your own ticket down here.
A bit of a shame that Brooks and LaMelo got injured for Illawarra, although they weren't doing that great. But at the same time, in terms of the hype train,
the hype train's good for our game.
Yeah.
That's what the A-League should have done with Usain Bolt. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, A-League is moving to winter, though, when COVID kind of locked down. And next season, I think they're moving to winter, which will be interesting. I don't fancy going and sitting out in the winter cold at night.
Yeah.
Which sucks, but
I think it's turning more into a shoulder season sport. It's going to be played January to June or July, I think.
But I like the NBL over the summer anyway. Like, it's you're indoors, you're not outside in the elements, you're not having to worry about the weather. But I still prefer it much as a summer sport. Get out there in the summer when it's warmer. In winter you kind of don't really want to go out as much.
Yeah, we don't have a really good sporting culture of sitting in freezing areas in Australia.
Sydney anyway, but in Melbourne Sydney, they seem to love it. But back on this roster, so Shawnee Bruce re-signed. I think that's a good re-signing. I would have liked to have seen us lock up a proper point guard, like our marquee proper point guard before we brought in Shawn Bruce. Now I just worry about possibly getting stuck with him. But he had a good enough season where you can give you the keys, I guess, for one season. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, 20 minutes a game, played well, defensively good, 6'3", so not undersized. Look, it could be a good match. We know what he's capable of. We know he's a 3-point specialist when he wants to be. Had a bit of a slump, but all shooters do. And this is a team where the core has been there from the beginning and potentially, can play and build on what Will Weaver has to offer.
And then kick it, free agent. Would you re-sign him?
You probably would, man. He shoots 50, 40, 90. Like, you play him at that. You play him at that trail 5 spot where Cooks can, really defend the weak side in that small ball lineup. He's just such a good shooter, man. He's a walking bucket, and he kind of just got better as the season went on. And I think Will Weaver just stuck him in good places.
I think that was the main part, really. It was just dropping him in those spots and giving him that responsibility and going, no, you don't move out of that spot. We put you there, you stay there. And then, it really mitigated his defensive frailties, because in that Gay system, he was coming out and just getting rinsed off the dribble way too much and just left on an island. Draws awesome charges too. Diddy is in the US. Xavier Cooks re-signed. We've obviously touched on him. That's going to be a good re-signing. Deshaun Taylor, I believe, is also in the US. I can't envisage him coming back. He's kind of like another role player. We'll touch on it after this, but our roster kind of looks like a lot of role players at the moment.
Yeah, we don't have that. They're the two critical marquees that we need, I think, to bring this team into the top four podium. As it currently stands, we're kind of a finals hopeful, but we really need to, get back to that 1 or 2 position. We need a couple of good marquee signings. I consider Magnot Maxiang a marquee signing. I think he's had a really good successful career in the US and in Italy, and is a good centre. But we really, I think, need some sort of ball creation ability and shooting ability, and Chris Goulden for me would be that other marquee signing.
Yeah. So Craig Moller obviously re-signed. He's another good sort of bench player, another guy where you're like role player. Our team seems to be filled with role players, but I think he was really growing as a player. Someone who coming into last season, I just went, what's he going to do? I don't see what he's going to do. It turned out to be quite astute defensively, inside scoring, a little bit of hustle, a little bit of, 3 and D. Didn't shoot through ball that well, but the D was there, which was good. So I think he can have a role. And again, a sizable defender, can play sort of small forward or power forward if he needs to in a small ball lineup. Lish retiring, outgoing. It's a bit of a shame. Bummer. I would have liked to see him at least get one more season, but yeah, the money factor, I reckon, might have been an issue as well there as well. Lucas Walker, free agent. Probably not going to pick him up. An NBL 1 kind of guy. I thought he gave some good minutes here and there as a veteran, but really didn't have a chance to make an impact. I think at the level he got the time that he was at that level. That makes sense.
He's kind of one of those guys that's probably a good rotational spot on a small market team. So like a Cairns or a Illawarra. But when you've got big market players, then really hogging up that time, he's probably not of any use at Sydney. And we were lucky with injuries really last year in those key positions where we had quite a bit of depth. And he just wasn't one of those positions that we had a lot of injuries at.
It's true. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Mo Spates, that guy where if he didn't even take his tracksuit off, it didn't matter. But then, if he was in a game, he'd be like, oh yeah, nice. Like he's given 100% and I can't really complain. I don't know if I could see him on a lower team really doing a starter role or a main role. But at the same time, for a team like Sydney trying to retool their roster, I don't see us picking him back up. And then obviously Jordan Hunter in his second year, a little bit like didn't get the chance, kind of felt a bit gazed, did he?
Felt a little bit, I'm never going to fit in with Bogut on the team. So, yeah.
He felt a bit gazed, like, I'm not going to throw this guy out there because, I don't know if he's got the ability. But then again, Will Weavers doesn't feel like a guy like that. But at the same time, like in his first year coming back out of college, I forget sometimes that, you know what? Sometimes first year guys out of college need to just play a couple of minutes a game. And it's not man, get rid of this guy. What's the point of him being here? Like sometimes you have to go, let's see what he can do in those limited minutes. Had a couple of little highlights, some good defensive plays, but I think there was a Brisbane game in there that he just got absolutely torched a couple of times. But at the same time, young guy, still growing. He's still got to grow into his body. We'll wait and see how he develops over this upcoming season. But we'll move on to now what the current squad looks like. It's Brad Newley, Bruce, Cooks, Moller, Hunter, all on guaranteed contracts. And then our signings, Dejan Veselic.
This is a good one.
Yeah, interesting. We should just we should talk about him. Yeah, I'm sure. I hope everyone sort of watched the footage. We'll link a few videos, I think, on our Facebook page. But having a look at some of it, man, he looks like rapid. Like real quick twitch. Off Tyler the dribble, nice and smooth and can go both ways. Can finish with his left too, left or right.
Yeah, Tyler Hero kind of player. If you're looking at kind of like a clone Miami Heat, obviously from Miami as well in the college system, but yeah, Tyler Hero kind of style clone player, quick, fast off the dribble, fast shooting action. I think he's going to be one to watch this year. I really do. I think he's, potential rookie of the year material. I think he'll get good deep minutes in Sydney as well. You'd want him in there, averaging 13 points per game for Miami, off a good 3-point clip. You'd want to load up because Will Weaver is an NBA 3-point specialist. And
in those clips, he looked like he had a nice stroke on him too. He kind of reminds me of DiVincenzo from the Bucks.
Yeah,
will shoot when he wants to. But at the same time, if you can sort of pair that with his ability off the dribble, in an NBL scenario, he can be somebody, that kind of torches defenses, puts them on the back foot, and then can come off a screen and shoot the ball quite well. He's 6'4". I think he's listed as a guard, but he was kind of a lot of pick and pop in that in those videos that we were watching.
Yeah, a lot of
which is interesting. Like 1-3 pick and pop, shooting threes. So it'll be interesting to see if Will Weaver puts him in any action like that. I'm just trying to get his college stats up. I had it up before, but keep talking about him. What else? What else do you like?
Defensively, quite good. Yeah, solid 6'4". Can guard the 1-3. I think that's a good need to have. It's quick enough to guard your smaller point guards, but can also put a bit of size and a bit of body mass on a small forward and hold his own. That's kind of what I've seen from him at the moment. But again, when you come in and playing with professionals, it's very different to college ball. I think there really hasn't been that standout transition from college ball to first year NBL. Even in a country like America, I haven't seen it in the last 5 years. Outside of probably like your DDs, but Dean is not a draft pick, whereas DD was quite a decent draft pick. So,
and you could see that though, like you could see it in Didi. You know what I mean? Like you could see in his game, he's very measured coming out of Brazil. You could, whereas Vasiljevic feels like he's a little bit more like rapid and erratic. Like he didn't have that measured look about him. But at the same time, in the NBL, you don't necessarily need that solid fundamental base. Like all you need is one step on some guys, and then you have a step on pretty much everyone else. It's not like the NBA where, we'll just rotate over and collapse, and then, look, your one little move where you go by someone is nothing anymore. Like the NBL seems to be, if you have that in your locker, you're going to be scoring 15 points a game if you're handling the ball, which I think in our sort of small ball that we might be looking to go towards with this team, he's going to be a devastating. Another ball handle is going to be really interesting. So he shot 40% last year from the field and 34% from three. Not great. He looks a lot better in the videos than his stats might say. He shot 41% from three though in his second year. So it might be interesting to see how he goes with those NBL hoops, NBL courts. But yeah, anything else you want to mention about him? No,
just be interested to see him in some preseason if we do get to catch him preseason.
And then Angus Glover, obviously, signed, but undisclosed so far. So I just put close to signing. I think he's had 3 knee recos. So I'd still be a bit like, but last year it looked really, really solid, admittedly.
Yes, looks solid. But yeah, always an injury cloud. He's probably 1 knee reco away from retirement, to be honest with you.
Well, he's had 3. I'm pretty sure he's had 3. I'm pretty sure he was coming off that last season. Even if it's 2, like it's still like, man, 2 on the same knee, like damn. How many times can you keep rebuilding? He's the $6 million man. Can keep rebuilding his knee. Another sort of, now just let's all be the same height, small ball team. And can handle it. So we're going to just have ball handlers again coming out of our ears, from last year where, Casper Love just pounding the ball up, JT could bring it up. Bogut didn't really do that much bringing it up. I feel like we're now going to be moving to a team of creators and ball handlers.
It could be an interesting thing that Will Weaver's putting together here.
And he, admittedly, let's just talk quickly. He is a good spotter of talent. Like his track record so far, we're not sitting there going, skeptical about the talent that he's signing. You know what I mean? Like, no. Will Weaver's already had 2 gems where you're just like, damn, like, gems.
He's a man with a plan, I can tell you that.
Shawnee Bruce and JT. And you'd probably put Xavier Cooks playing small ball center in a gem category too.
Yes.
I think.
Definitely.
We'll move on to the roster at large. We've probably got 2 sort of role guy spots to fill. You can't see it because you can't see my screen. But, we've got a center position to fill, obviously. Shooting guard position to fill. Point guard, you would think Casper's coming back, but possibly not. And then, probably 2 bench options before development guys. So it's going to be interesting. Your thoughts on the positions that we need to fill for starters?
Yeah,
just in general,
well, I mean,
before we start going into naming players?
well, I think we need to obviously look at a backup stretch 4/5 that can shoot the ball at a bench position, i.e., a kick it clone. Point guard, obviously, marquee. Shooting guard or point guard or shooting guard marquee. You know, you could probably argue that Chris Goulding would be in that consideration. You really do need to sign a strong center. I think that we really struggled Gazy's last year with Dane Panoa's backup. You know, that was just minutes when Bogut was off the court that we were just getting torched. And I think that's a really important point, is that the center position, you don't have to sign a marquee center, but you have to have two solid centers. You know, Adelaide, DJ and Harry, you know, Brisbane, Will Magnay, you know, a couple of, you know, Cairns and Jawai, good solid centers and a backup center, not a marquee and then deep trash.
Yeah. I think the season before last season, that was kind of it was like Andrew Bogut, and then from there it just fell off a cliff. You know, backup Rainbow Ray Turner.
Ray Puffed.
So I think it's going to be important to sign a proper center. Really, if Bogut's not staying, we're going to have to get a proper center. They're going to have to fit. I don't think we could get away with Cooks playing small ball center the whole season. I've got him listed there as power forward. There's no reason why he can't play power forward. But I don't know if you really want to try that a whole season.
I'd say not. I'd say it's good to break runs. It's good to get out on runs. But yeah, I don't say that you'd try that all season. I think you get a lot of bully ball happening, and a lot of down low playing and a lot of clearing of the paint for some one-on-one action with some bigger centers. So yeah, like I said, you don't need to sign, you know, a ridiculous marquee center, but you do need to get two solid centers in there.
What about the shooting guard and point guard positions?
Obviously, Chris Goulding, shooting guard. Casper Ware, you would probably say, would work well because they've obviously played together in Melbourne. They've won a championship. They know how to play together. It's the perfect combination. So,
what about just the actual roles themselves? You know, in this team and what it's kind of shaping up to be. You know, do we need pure scorers? Do we need ball handlers? What do you reckon?
We need facilitators. There's a lot of ball handlers, a lot of guys that can create the shot at the dribble. There's not a lot of facilitators. Bogut's we're going to lose a fantastic facilitator in Bogut. And you wouldn't put anyone else in that category as a fantastic facilitator except Big Balls Brucey. You wouldn't even put Casper Ware in that kind of elite facilitator category. So I would say that, you know, if you don't sign Casper Ware, you'd probably want to sign a pass first point guard instead of a shoot point. You've got enough range with Vasiljevic, Kickett, if you re-sign him, and Goulding if he signs, that you do not need that another just, you know, shot taker. You need a shot creator. You need a pass first point guard.
I don't feel like that's Will Weaver's style. I feel like he loves the scorers.
I do as well, but I think that you've got enough scorers in the team. Get the guy that can create the space to get these guys buckets.
All right, so we'll move on to actual players that you want to see in those 4, 3, 4, 5 positions. We'll start with your first pick at center.
Mangok Mathiang, happy with that.
Yeah, you're into Mangok Mathiang?
Yeah.
I actually, spoiler alert, I had him on my bench. Bear with me as I drive this. It's been a while since I've done this, so I'm going to drive this. Pop your piece. I had Space Cam. I want Space Cam, man. It'd be pretty good. He can shoot a 3-ball. You know, he's not Sean Long level shooting 3 balls, but it'd be pretty interesting to have him in this team. And then, you know, the versatility of Newley, Cooks. You know, Hunter maybe can come off the bench, kick it. Imagine the power you could have, man. And then, you know, if you pair him with a pass first point guard, the amount of pick and roll, the amount of space he could create, it'd be unbelievable.
It would be.
So I'm gonna save that in there. And then at shooting guard,
Chris Goulding.
Yeah, Goulding. I had Goulding as well. Foulding. It's hard to go past, man.
It is. Like my ultimate point guard is to get Josh Giddey.
Giddey? What's he in the US? Is he college bound?
No, he is 18. He's 17, I think 18. He's not even draft.
Isn't he going to college? No, I'm thinking of
No, he's playing.
Josh Green. Sorry, I was thinking of Josh Green.
Oh, that's Josh Green. Yeah, he played for Arizona. No, Josh Giddey is playing. I think he signed with Adelaide.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
6'9" Ben Simmons clone. 6'9" point guard. 6'9" pass first point guard in the NBL. It's going to be devastating.
Damn, some LaMelo all over again.
Pretty much.
So I'm just going to lock in Chris Goulding. I think both of us, man. I mean, it's a pipe dream. Like, I feel like he's going to the Tasmania franchise or possibly staying in Melbourne. But at the same time, I'm not saying no. As much as I'm like, I'm still like, it's like I've been softened up by the Ware signing. I'm like, I don't want a Melbourne point guard. Oh, what's this? And now I'm just like, I've had that. So let's just have Goulding. Sweet. Let's do it. What about like money-wise?
Yeah, it's hard to know in the back ends of how it's impossible to put a figure on like, oh yeah, we've got 20 million in the cap left. No, it doesn't work like that. You know, I don't know what their value is because all the players have a set value that is determined by an arbitrary third party. But what you pay them is not that set. It's just the most bizarre system on earth.
Yeah, it's so convoluted, eh?
So convoluted. So you can't really know, we've got, 6 million left in the cap. Let's sign these two. It's just like, I don't even know what their arbitrary value is based under the cap. So I don't know how much we have left as the arbitrary base under the cap. Too out there in space for me.
Space Cam. What about your point guard?
Yeah, that one's a tough one. Josh Giddey would be ultimately my pass first point guard elite, but
surely we're gonna have someone else.
Dude, this kid's NBA quality.
You're all over it,
for sure. Ben Simmons clone.
Yeah, you want me to lock it in?
He's not going to be it, but
but I thought he's contracted Adelaide though, isn't he? He's just like a next star. Let me just check here. Yeah, next star, 2-year deal. No good.
Yeah, no good. Let's just go Casper.
Casper, we're re-signing. I went for pick up John Robertson from the Phoenix. That'd be interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good I would have loved Machado, man. That would have been an awesome signing. If you pulled Space Cam and Machado in from Cairns, that'd be fantastic. Maybe throw in a little Nate Jarwai off the bench as well. Let's just turn into the Cairns Taipans. Kawhi Noy, give him a contract, give him a deal. Man, that was so good to watch. I can't believe at the start of last season we were just like, this team's gonna be terrible, and then they were heaps good. I think they made the finals. They made semi-finals, didn't they? They lost to Perth. It's been so long, man.
Just though they took a game off them. So
so I will lock in John Robertson as a 3-point specialist sharpshooter / can run the point when he feels like it. What about bench styles?
Yeah, that one's a tough one.
Yeah. So what kind of players do we need? Maybe another forward in this setup.
Yeah.
If you've gone with Mathiang, you probably need another power forward off the bench. You
probably need another centre, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, what do you got? What do you got for me?
I don't have anyone. I don't know a good centre that's that deep a bench that we could potentially pick up.
Dang. Great turn.
Dang. Power forward. I think that's Dengakuth. He's probably the
Plumlee.
same.
What about Plumlee?
No.
Pinot? No, he's still contracted.
No.
Barlow? Nah. You could probably play Barlow at power forward. Just looking through this. It's Jock Landale, maybe?
That's the pipe dream, but yeah, no. Jock Landale's more of a stretch forward than a centre.
Who are you going to lock in? What do you got? Time's ticking.
Pass.
Pass.
Okay,
I'm
just to be considered.
Somebody.
To be considered.
How about that? So to go with my Space Cam, I'd love to sign Mathiang as well. So I'm just going to lock that one in. Have Space Cam start, Mathiang off the bench, and then you could play both of them if you want to do center and power forward. Bring Cooks to the 3. Bring Newley off the bench. Maybe you'd have heaps of ball handlers. And you'd have a sort of 1-5 guy to play with Robertson.
Hold on, I'll keep that thought going. Toby's just alerting me to his needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Yeah, it's all good. So, the last spot on the roster, I don't know, I'd probably look at another guard, maybe, a combo guard, sort of a 2-3, kind of looking through this free agent tracker. It's looking rough. If we're looking at sort of guys who can come in and play a role for us, I was just talking about like guards. If it's looking rough, man. Maybe Sunday Jetch.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a bit of talent still potentially poached from the US. I'm not giving up hope yet that there's potential talent being pinched that will come to fruition.
So yeah, I'm going to go with Sunday Jetch to fill it out.
Yeah, I'd go Sunday as well. Good hustle guy, yeah. Definitely.
Then it would just be, it's kind of like, it feels still feels really bench, So running through your potential starting roster next season would be Mathiang, Cooks, Newley, Golding, Ware, and then Hunter, Vasiljevic, Glover, Moller, Bruce, somebody, and Detch.
Yeah,
it's just decent. I like that. There's a lot of size, a lot of grit. Very, very small bally. I like it. And then my roster would be Space Cam, Cooks, Newley, Golding, Robertson, Hunter, Vasiljevic, Glover, Moller, Bruce, Mathiang, Detch. That feels like more of a 1-5, 2-5. A lot of maybe possibly going to the triangle. Will Weaver in the triangle.
Jordan inspired.
All right, so that kind of wraps up our little free agency special. It's going to be very interesting to see. We'll come back, I think, next week and see what the first week brings.
See what the first week. We hope there's some big news and some stuff to talk about. Otherwise, we'll be saying and ah for about 30 minutes and.
I think we should sign this guy. But I think things are going to move quick to start with, and it's going to slow down. And then towards this sort of September, October, that's when we're really going to know about the NBA and whether it's even thinking about what's happening, Because I think they're going to call this. They're going to delay this next bubble for sure.
Yeah, I think they'll finish this season and kick teams out as they go, and it'll be easier to manage the bubble as teams kind of get booted out because there'll be less players, and when there's less players, there's less likelihood for issues.
Plus, when's their season going to start again?
Well, it's meant to start December.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening.
It's chaos. It's chaos.
Yeah. Just there was a study that came out today out of the UK looking at coronavirus over 3 months, patients that had it, and only 15% of patients at 3 months still had antibodies. Yeah. So, yeah, that's not good.
All right, so interesting times coming up. We'll be back, I reckon, next week or maybe 2 weeks. If we say next week, it'll probably be 2 weeks.
2 weeks, I'd say. End of July. Lock in end of July as a definite.
End of July. Thank you for joining us tonight. Remember, as always, you can like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and on Facebook, and we're on Twitter too. I haven't really looked at that Twitter account for a while. There hasn't been much to tweet about. But definitely like, share, and subscribe. Keep listening and let us know what you think about the podcast. Shout out again to Aussie Hoopla for their free agent tracker. It's a great resource. We definitely use that to sort of look at who the guys are on these free agency on this free agency window. It's going to be interesting, and we'll see you guys next time
on the King's Dome.
Take it easy, Ron.
All right. Peace.